The Liberal Party is the problem in Canada, and Mark Carney has to go. That's what everybody has been saying, right? Well, I don't think the problem is the Liberal Party, because when I look back, that crisis of housing did not start in 2015 under Justin Trudeau. And homelessness has been building for decades under both the Conservative and the Liberal government. But then again, if the Liberal Party has been in power for over 10 years, and instead of things getting better, it's actually getting worse. I mean, if you look around you, the cost of living is very high. Housing is unaffordable, groceries are extremely expensive, and more people are falling into homelessness every single day. And it's not just the Canadians that are being impacted. Every single person is feeling the squeeze. I mean, if you go out there, you will see that there are lots of newcomers sleeping on the streets and on the sidewalks. So if the Liberal Party is the problem, if they're not delivering on their promises, then something has to change. Because at the end of the day, it's not about politics. It's about the people.
1 year ago, Mark Carney was elected because he promised to save Canada's economy after a disastrous decade of Liberal government and Trump's tariff threats put Canada in a vulnerable position. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, it's evident that Carney has failed at his job. Economic indicators in Canada are still disastrous, and trade negotiations with the United States haven't happened for months. However, just last week, Carney said this:
"Affordability is the best it's been in over a decade."
Contrary to Carney's statement, Canada currently has the highest food inflation in the G7, gas prices have soared due to a war overseas, even though Canada has the potential to become energy self-reliant, and recently, when it comes to US trade negotiations, Carney's tried to put on his big boy pants and say that Trump won't dictate the terms, even though Canada's negotiating position is laughable. The reality is that Canada's economic position should be a lot better, considering Carney ran a $78 billion deficit in an attempt to stimulate our economy. Every year of Liberal government, the financial burden gets bigger on my generation.
You know what really pisses me off about fellow Canadians is the fact that they do not want to admit that reality even when statistics or facts are thrown in their face. Stop this whole patriotic bullshit when people are suffering from lack of healthcare in Canada, okay? I've heard Canadians say our healthcare, it might have a few problems, but it's not that bad. It's not so bad. You know, it's a few wait times here and there. So what? You know, it's free, right? Wrong, okay? You're idiots for, you're stupid for having that kind of thinking. Being in pain and suffering for a long time is not good healthcare. It's not universal healthcare. It's shit healthcare. Excuse my language. I'm pissed because physicians are resigning in Canada. And I'm looking at a Fraser Institute article right here. Check it out, okay? There's shortages of good doctors. Millions do not have primary healthcare. And you're telling me that Canada does healthcare better than other countries? Really?
All right, Canadians, so this is going around right now. Last month, the federal government paid $200 million to a company called Maritime Launch Services to lease it for 10 years. Let's see who's involved in Maritime Launch Services. Could it be somebody in the Canadian government? The most prominent Canadian government official publicly tied to Maritime Launch Services is Honorable David J. McGuinty, Minister of National Defense. What? Yeah, this guy right here. So it's always, you know what, like, you guys can call it whatever you want to call it. It seems like money laundering to me. These guys make up companies and then the government gives taxpayer money to them. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, should we be going after people like this and saying enough is enough to our government? Because they only do it because Canadians don't care. You guys don't care. You guys are all walking around like this and like this. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Have a great fucking day.
Right now, when I look at everything that's being said about Canada, I don't see just one clear problem. I see a situation where a lot of small pressures are slowly building up and starting to affect how people feel about their everyday lives. It's not like things suddenly changed overnight, but for many people, there's this growing sense that life is becoming more difficult than it used to be. Whether it's the cost of basic things, housing challenges, or just the uncertainty about what the future might look like. And when that feeling spreads, it doesn't stay limited to personal struggles. It turns into a broader conversation about leadership, decisions, and priorities. People begin to question whether the system is really working for them, or if something needs to change. But at the same time, I think it's important to understand that Situations like this are rarely black and white. Every country goes through periods where things feel unstable or uncertain, especially in a world where economic and social pressures are connected globally. So while it's easy to point fingers or say that everything is going wrong, the reality is usually more complex than that. Some policies might be aimed at long-term benefits, even if they don't feel helpful in the short term, and sometimes the impact of decisions takes time to be fully understood. Still, what cannot be ignored is how people are feeling right now, because perception matters just as much as reality. If a large number of people feel like they are being left behind or not being heard, that creates a gap, and that gap slowly turns into frustration. And frustration eventually turns into a lack of trust. And once trust starts to weaken, even good decisions can be questioned because people no longer feel confident about where things are heading. So for me, the real issue here isn't just about whether things are getting better or worse. It's about whether there is clear communication, transparency, and a sense that everyday concerns are actually being addressed. Because at the end of the day, people don't just want promises or complex explanations. They want to feel that their situation is improving in a real, visible way. And until that happens, conversations like these will continue. Reactions will keep getting stronger, and more people will start asking the same question. Are things really moving in the right direction? Or is it time to rethink what's being